Okay, this is really simple, pure soap. There's only 3 ingredients, so it's really easy. All this equipment is what we'll need, but it's all stuff that you can pretty much just gather up from around the house. You don't really have to buy anything. I'll tell you a couple things I did buy, just because it's going to make it a little nicer. So if you want to upgrade just a bit, you can purchase these 2 things. The first is going to be this little electric mixer, $12 on Amazon. So it's not that pricey, and it will improve your quality of soap that you make. You could also use this little stirrer in the homemade laundry soap that I have a video on how to make. So it's really handy and you can use it a lot. The second thing that was very inexpensive and will make a difference as well is a little mold. This is a silicone bread mold, but it can also be a silicone soap mold. As you can see, it's just narrow, not too deep, and it'll make really nice soap for you. So those are 2 things. And this again was about, I don't know, $10 or $12 on Amazon. Another pretty cheap item. I have made the soap using a cardboard box with you line that with plastic. You can use that if you don't have the mold. And the soap will come out just as good, but the bars will just be a little more crude. So, you know, if you don't mind, which in the beginning I didn't mind. All right, so let me explain what we need. 3 ingredients. We're gonna need lye, which we ordered this online. This is food grade lye. So you need a container of lye, distilled water, which that's really simple, and lard or some kind of oil. Now you can buy the lard at your local grocery store and use that lard, or this lard is from my hogs that I raised. So we're gonna use the lard that we have, which hopefully we're hoping is more pure because we fed them all good food. You're gonna need a little scale because you do have to weigh your ingredients precisely to make a really good bar of soap. So this is actually 3 things that you might need to purchase, you know, to make good soap with. And then we have a bowl, because this is the bowl we're gonna mix everything in with this mixture at the end. If you don't have this little mixer, what you need is a stainless steel spoon or a rubber spatula, because you do have to stir quite a bit in the end of the process. And like I said, the mold, and then you do need a lid for the mold, which can be very simple. I'm gonna use cardboard. And then these towels are kind of at the wrong end of the table, because what you're gonna do after you pour the soap in the mold is you wrap it in blankets to keep it very warm and hot for 24 hours so it can process. And we're gonna show you all this as we go along. But this is just so you can get your stuff together beforehand. After the 24 hours, when we get the soap out of the mold, you need a cutter. Also, this is needlepoint plastic that you can just get at Walmart or wherever. It's pretty cheap. But what we do is when the soap cures, because the soap has to cure for like 3 weeks, it needs to kind of get air underneath it. So we set it on this. Alrighty then, this is everything you need. So now we're gonna get started. I'm gonna show you step by step how to actually make a great, simple bar soap for the home. Before we get started, I'm going to cover the safety gear you should probably wear, because, you know, we are going to be dealing with this lye, and lye is dangerous. Lye is acid. It burns you. So I wear gloves, and I have these goggles right here, whoops, that are coming on and off my head, just so I don't want to splash anything in my eye. So obviously you need eye protection. And then the gloves. So, and I wear long sleeves when I'm doing it too. And we have the vinegar on the side, because vinegar will neutralize it. If you do splash it somewhere on you and it's burning, you have to rinse it off with vinegar, which will neutralize it. I'm going to read off the recipe for you so you can write this down to have at home. It's 3 simple ingredients. 40 ounces of lard, which you can buy at the supermarket. 5.4 ounces of lye, which we ordered this on Amazon. You can do the same. 13.5 ounces of water. Now, if you write this down and follow this recipe exactly, you will end up with beautiful bar soap. We've done all the figuring for you. You don't have to do any mathematics. Just follow this recipe exactly and you will end up with your nice bar soap. So we made it easy for you. Okay, so we're gonna get started now. The first thing we're gonna measure out is the water. We're gonna start with our 13.5 ounces of distilled water. Like I said before, we've done all the mathematics for you, so your measurements have to be very precise. And right here is an area where you can mess up the whole recipe if you don't do what I'm telling you. You put the container on the scale, and if you can see the numbers, it says 0. If you put the little container on there, it weighs 1.5 ounces. That would mess up the whole recipe. So you have to tare the scale, which means I'm going to push this button and it brings it back to 0. So it does not take this container into account. Now I can measure out exactly 13.5 ounces of water. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to pour the water into the container. Exactly 13.5. So you have to kind of go slow and give the scale a chance. Okay, so I have to get it up a little bit more. So let me go slow. Ah! Okay, do you see how that's a little too much? I'm going to take my turkey baster over here and I'm going to suck a little bit of this water out until it's exactly 13.5. Exactly 13.5 ounces of distilled water. So we're going to set this aside. The next thing we're going to do is the lye. Okay, so we put the scale back to 0. We're going to put this plastic container on here. Make sure it's plastic. And these little, disposable plastic containers work perfect. Now I'm going to put my goggles down because I'm going to be opening up the lye. So I'm going to very carefully dump the lye in here. I'm going to go slow. I'm going slow because I don't want to have to put some back. It's bouncing around for a second. Let's see, it says 5.4. Okay, so this is where, you need your rubber gloves, you need your safety goggles. This is the part you have to be extra, extra careful. Okay, what I want to do now is dump the lye crystals in the water. You never, ever, ever dump the water into the lye because you don't want it to splash. So you just leave the water in there. And then you just very carefully dump the lye in here. The point I want to make is it's going to smoke. If it smokes, don't be surprised. And it's also going to be hot. So here I go. I'm going to dump the lye in the water. So I'm going to just make sure I get all this lye with my stainless steel spoon into the water. We want to see a clear liquid. I can smell it. Can you see the smoke? So I'm going to keep stirring because I want it all to be dissolved. Okay, I'm going to put that there. Okay, so we're going to set this aside now. It's very hot. I can feel the plastic container is very hot. Okay, I just want to point out, you don't want the children around, you don't want the pets around because this little container of lye water is very dangerous at this point. So you just want to set it there and keep everybody away from it. What we're wanting it to do at this point is cool down to 100 degrees. So we're just going to set it there while we do our lard. So we have to melt this lard on the stove because it has to be liquid. Okay, so I'm going to scrape all this lard into this pan. And then I'm going to warm it up on the stove. Alrighty, we have our lard over here on the stove. I turn the stove on and we're going to heat this up until it's liquidy. Okay, the lard is all warmed up and totally liquidy. We only need it to be about room temperature. So I'm going to pour it in the bowl and let it cool down just a bit before we add the lye water. Okay, here I go. I'm going to dump the lard into my bowl. And I'm just going to sit here and let that empty for a second. We're all ready to dump the lye and water mixture into the lard. We've used the thermometer here to make double sure the water lye mixture is 100 degrees. That's what you want it to be before you dump it into the lard. So I'm going to do that now very carefully, and I'm not going to splash, so I'm going to take my time. You want to be careful, and it's going to sink to the bottom of the lard mixture. Okay, so we'll set this aside. Now I'm going to stir this for a second before I get my little mixer and put my mixer in it. Make sure the lard is room temperature before you dump your water and lime mixture into your lard. So the two temperatures of the two different bowls are important. So I would say room temperature, you know, around 80 degrees for the lard. And then the lye and the water mixture is exactly 100 degrees. And those are important in the way your soap will set up later. It's chemistry. It's actually a little chemical reaction that's going to be going on here for the next 24 hours. Okay, so I think I have this mixed enough. I'm going to switch to the little hand mixer. We're going to use our little hand mixer for 20 to 30 second blasts. And we're going to make sure it's under there before we turn it on. Okay, so that's 20, but I'm just going to keep mixing it like this. So that was 20 seconds, and I'm just counting 1,000. So I'm just going to wait, stir it like this again. See how it's starting to trace when I go around like that? Do you see how it's tracing? This is how you know when the soap is ready. It's going to be tracing, and you can see the marks I'm leaving when I move the spoon or spatula or whatever in the soap mixture. So this is ready to pour into the mold. So we're going to get back with this spoon. Okay, this looks like nice pudding. As you can see, you can see the trace marks I'm making. So that's how you know. You don't want to go beyond this though. You can over stir. So I'm going to dump this in the mold now. Let me just get this last bit in here, and then I'm going to spread it out nice. It's right to the tippity top of this mold. Now this is what we do, the last step. We're going to cover it, and then we're going to cover it with a towel. You have to keep the heat in because there's a process going on, a chemical process that makes this mixture into the actual soap. It is not soap right now, and it's still dangerous with the lye in there. So until it sets, and we'll come back tomorrow and cut it, it's dangerous still. So you still want to be very, very careful. So I'm going to turn the edges of this towel in, and I'm going to cover it up really good. And I'm going to put a little blanket over it too. So you can see you really want to cover it up good. Okay, now this little extra bit I'm going to cover as well. And I'm going to use that for my homemade laundry soap because it won't be nice enough to make into a bar. So I'm just going to curl all this in. And then I'm just going to leave this sit for 24 hours. Okay, here it is. We'll be back tomorrow to show you the next step. So see you in 24 hours. Okay, it's been 24 hours and I cannot wait to unwrap the soap. So here we go. We're going to unwrap it, unmold it, and we're going to cut it. This is our simple 3-ingredient homemade homestead soap. And look how easy it comes off. It just comes right off the silicone mold to get your soap out. So that is such a plus for a cheap, inexpensive soap mold. We bought this on Amazon. Now I've never used one of these molds before. This is my first time, so I'm not sure how exactly. I saw one person turn it inside out, but there you go. You don't even have to. It is so smooth. That turned out so good. Now the edges on the top, I'll show you how to fix that later. Because right now, all we're going to do is cut it. So you just cut the bar, whatever size you like. If you like a big thick bar, cut a big thick bar. If you like a little bar, cut a little bar. That is such a nice bar of soap. I like a little bar of soap. I don't like a big old bar that gets slimy over time. And if you have children, that's like the perfect bar of soap for the sink. Put it down. You're not get your paws off the soap. Okay, so now we'll measure it. We'll do 1/2 inch bars. I don't know. I just want to do it. I don't want to measure it. I just want to do it. So I'm going to cut these in half. And then if I want to give a bar to my friends to try it, and I'm not sure they're going to appreciate it, you can just give them a small bar to try it. You don't have to give them a big, huge bar. Okay. It's just, I can't tell you how lovely the texture is. It's just such a nice bar of soap. I just don't think you'll be unhappy if you try this recipe. I think you'll be so happy with it. And the best part is you'll know your family is not using any chemicals or colorants or deodorants or anything. It's just going to be pure, pure soap. Another thing about homemade soap I wanted to say is this soap dries out and then it just sits there. It does not continually dissolve and it won't be slimy. That's another plus of homemade soap. You gotta cut it now while it's soft. So now's your chance to cut it whatever size and shape you want. These are all my personal bars right here that I'm doing. The next step is it has to cure for 3 weeks. So you're gonna get your container, get your plastic needle worksheets. We bought the plastic needle worksheets on Amazon, just so you know. It's because it's a good price, that's why we do. Now I'm just gonna stack the soap in here because it's gonna sit in here for 3 weeks and I'm just gonna go put this in the shelf in the bathroom. So I'm just stacking it in here, you know, so it's air in between each piece. You don't have to be picky or perfect, whatever.
See how you put them on the edge.
I like to, you stand them up on the edge so the most air can touch them as possible. You don't want to lay it flat like that. It's going to cure better if you turn it up on its edge. So make sure you cut them thick enough to where you can set them up on the edge. And then these are the little skinny ones that are the little trial bars for people that want to try my soap, which I know I'm going to have a lot of them. Okay, we're going to explain what you need to look for in your bar of soap. Here, give them a close-up of that bar. What you want is a nice, smooth consistency. You don't want to see any blotchy areas, any crystals, or just anything abnormal. It should be smooth and creamy. Now I'm going to show you how to clean up the bar a little bit and make it look nicer if you want to give it away or you just would prefer it to be a little neater. You get your potato peeler and then you're just going to do the corners. You can just scrape the corner off. If you want to give somebody a housewarming gift or something, you can use your soap, and this is a way to just make it look a little more clean edge. I like the top because it almost looks like whipped cream or something with vanilla in it, but it's okay. We'll still fix it up a little. We'll leave the little whoop-de-doo at the tippity top. So you can see the one where you take the potato peeler and you just get the edges off it. It's clean it up nicely. Even though it's such a simple little procedure, it does make the bar look a little nicer. Now we're just going to let this cure for 3 weeks and then we'll be back to look at the absolute finished product.